I'm back again with my design for a new tote bag made from hand spun yarn and hand woven fabric. It is another brilliantly sunny day here in northern Colorado, which is great for many things, but not really great for showing colors. And I don't have a good way to block it, so we're just going to have to do the best we can here. All right, so when I last talked about this bag, I mentioned that I was going to do some dyeing, and my plan had been to dye the darkest brown color I had, a true black, well, a brown black, a true brown black, to leave the natural color, the cream colored wool plain, and then to dye the medium color a shade of gray. And that did not quite work out the way I planned because I have problems with math and I consistently, when I think I'm making gray, end up making more black. So my two brown yarns are now black. And I promise that despite the sun coming in, uh, or that because of the sun coming in, they look like they're different shades of black, but they're actually both just black, 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 black. They are black. They are black yarns, which means that I need to adjust my mental calibrations for how I'm going to work with this bag. But this is not a crisis under any circumstances because we all know that black and white is a classic color combination that looks great on anything, including tote bags. So this is all going to work really well together. And then this is my cream colored black nose, Valet black nose yarn. And then because I'm planning an ankle woven strap for this bag that attaches with overall clips, I pulled out some heavyweight. This is a worsted weight cotton that I had in case I don't want to try to use, and I probably won't want to try to use a stretchy wool for a strap on a bag because I don't want the strap to keep stretching. So cotton with its non-stretch properties is going to be a better choice. And in fact, that's what I've been using on my current bag is an ankle woven band made out of cotton, and it's worked with overall clips, and it's worked really, really well, except for the hole in the bag that keeps the overall clipped. So these are my materials, and now I'm ready to say a little bit more about just the scope of this project and things that always just terrify me when I start a design project because I never think of myself as a designer. I think of myself as an editor. So I'll look at somebody else's design and go, okay, I'm going to borrow that and I'm going to steal that and I'm going to tweak that. And that's how I tend to do things. I'm not the sort of person, if you hand me a blank sheet of paper and say, draw something, we'll go, oh, well, here's what I want to draw. Here's what I'm envisioning. I tend to approach things from the other direction. And if you're like me, I think that you might find this material helpful. If you feel paralyzed with fear or just overwhelmed by the millions of possibilities to designing your own projects, whatever they are, whatever medium you choose. Uh, I hope that this video will give you some ideas. And the very first place to start is, I feel, is form follows function. In other words, when you're creating something functional, you have to start with what it's meant to do and how it can best achieve those goals. So for a tote bag, let's um, let's see what we can do with some of these considerations. So I started just making a general list of the parameters I'm working under. So the first thing I did was measure my existing tote bag, and which is to me the perfect size. It's the perfect height. It's the perfect depth, and this has been driven home to me lately by the fact that I've been using a reusable grocery bag as my tote bag, and it is so tall that everything I want gets um, jumbled together at the bottom, and I have to take everything out to find the thing I need. So if I start with the finished size for my current bag, which is about 12 inches high and a 30-inch circumference, in other words, 15 inches to each side, I'm going to be really pleased. Also, the strap on my current bag is about 36 inches as a woven length. Okay, so right off the bat, I have narrowed some specs. I've made some specs. Uh, and then I just started brainstorming and making crazy lists. So, what do I want in a tote bag? The very first thing is it has to be sturdy. It has to be sturdy because I'm lugging it around all the time, carrying things like my phone and my iPad, and I don't want stuff tumbling out. I don't want things to break. I don't want the bottom of the bag to fall out on concrete, etc. So it needs to be sturdy. It needs to be stylish because, yeah, I'm that kind of person. I need something that goes with everything I might wear out of the house, which is to say, black and white, really good choices in my world because I wear black is one of my capsule colors, and you can never go wrong with black. Finally, it needs to be convenient. Well, size, I've already dealt with that. Do I want a flap? Do I want interior pockets? Do I want an adjustable length on my strap? So once I figured out what three functions this tote bag had to start with, everything else started following from that. And you can see that I've already resolved a lot of these questions just by my choice of materials. So if I am going to use wool for the bag that is hand spun, hand woven, and then fold until it's practically like iron chainmail, that's going to meet the needs of sturdy. If I choose weave structures at a set and then with a finish, which in this case is going to be fulling, that work to my that are going to be sturdy, I'm going to be a lot happier. Also, I have to decide, do I want a weave structure that is going to stretch? Well, in this case, since I'm going to full this fabric as much as I possibly can. It's not going to stretch. Even if I made it, I'm reasonably certain that even if I wove a twill with floats, etc., with big floats, it would not stretch because I'm going to shrink this as much as possible after it comes off the loom. The same thing with the strap. I've resolved the problem of strap connections, which is to say these overall clasps work super, super well. And an inkle woven band out of cotton, not going to stretch. I can, if I so choose, add uh, uh, an adjuster buckle that lets me adjust the length of the strap. But I already know from experience that on an inkle woven band, those adjuster buckles don't tend to hold their position. So I always end up with the strap at the longest length, no matter what I seem to do. So right away, I am coming down to my convenience factors and saying, nope. So we've ticked off size, and I'm doing this sideways, so forget that. We've ticked off materials. Um, I am just going to do a plain weave because my goal is to felt this into something like iron. So that's dealt with. Set and finish are going to be the next things I test. Strap connections, that's dealt with. Colors go with my wardrobe. Well, black and white are going to work really well. Also, black as the main fabric is not going to show dirt. Uh, I think that for design reasons, I'm not going to do a flap. And if I decide later on to revisit that, I could actually, if I've got enough yarn, come back, weave a flap separately and sew it on, but I'm not going to try to weave it on. So I'm going to say no to that for right now. I'm also going to say no to interior pockets. at this point in time. And uh, yeah, I'm just going to say no. What I can do if I so choose is put a small zip pouch, of which I have many, to hold little tiny things that are likely to roll out of the bag, like lip gloss and pens and things like that. So I have already, just by making a list, starting with the size and then making a list of the functions I need it to perform, I've narrowed down an awful lot of things, which is great. I'm already feeling a lot more confident about this design process, about this creative process, because I know a lot more now about the function. So, other considerations. Do I have enough yarn for sampling and for the finished project? And I am reasonably certain that I do, because honestly, this is a really small bag. 12 inches high by 30 inches around is not very large in the grand scheme of things. And so I am reasonably confident that I'm going to be able to warp up my rigid heddle loom just for a sample and see where that takes me, so that I can play with set, so that I can test how well or not these particular breeds of wool are going to full, and take it from there. So that's part one of my design process.